Welcome to
BamBamORama.
Welcome to the BamBamORama podcast. My name is Jackson, and today we have Seth.
We didn't get his last name.
Yeah, I forgot your last name, Seth
Romero.
Romero.
Yeah, that's right.
And we also have returning Colby Roberts. How are y'all doing today?
Doing well, thank you.
Doing great.
Right. So originally, Colby mentioned you were in Flip Cup.
That's correct.
Colby.
Yes.
So what got you interested in music?
It was actually surprisingly K-pop.
K-pop did?
Yeah, when I was it's about 16, so freshman,
Okay.
going into sophomore.
Okay.
Can you elaborate a bit on this? I mean,
Well,
No,
that,
just
no,
K-pop.
Just K-pop.
we've been cut off by your management. Sorry.
I was just in bed watching YouTube. That's whenever YouTube was still, it was probably like 2 years in.
Yeah.
But they had a lot of the recommended. It was on the initial tab, and K-pop was just starting to get into the Western scene, Western culture, and there was this group named Beast, and I clicked on their video. I was like, screw it, I'm just watching a bunch of different types of shit. And I heard them singing, and I was like, oh my god, they're angelic. Like, the way that they're singing and dancing, I was like, that must be incredibly difficult. And I was just captivated, so I was like, I really want to sing like
That's pretty
that.
cool. So Beast got you into
Yeah, exactly.
wanting to do music.
Mhm.
Did you continue down the K-pop route? Do you still listen to K-pop?
Yes, I still do.
Who's your favorite?
It's still Beast.
It's
always,
still Beast. Beast
yeah.
is Beast
They-
has your heart, and it's always
Yeah. Well, they eventually ended up going on their own and lost one of their members, so they're called Highlight now.
okay.
But yeah, it's they're the main ones that I listen to. But BTS is pretty solid, but I'm not like super hype train gonna like stab someone over them like most of their fans.
Like some people
But
are.
you would for highlight.
Yeah.
How many people are left?
at least Yosef. What's up?
How many people are left in highlight?
There are 5. There were
six.
originally.
Yeah.
Holy,
Oh, dude, BTS has like 8 members.
is that
something
true?
like that.
Yeah, there was a group,
I thought it
Super
was-
Junior, and then EXO. EXO had 12 members, and then like,
Yeah,
they culled them down to like 7 or 6.
Oh
I
my
can't remember.
word, man.
I
yeah.
can't remember.
K-pop bands are like not just huge in popularity, but like literally in size, they're huge.
And
It's
they have
ridiculous.
different roles for each member too. So you have like a lead dancer, a lead vocalist, and just all types of
Like a
different.
business.
A lot
yeah,
of
exactly.
a lot of them
Yeah.
have a
Different
rapper too.
Different talents. Yeah, 2 or 3 rappers, depending on how big the group
That's
is.
true.
but-
So little commune gets together.
The-
Fuck it, we're gonna do this
Yeah.
K-pop.
Right.
Yeah, the way EXO worked when they first came out, they had 6 members that would put out music in Mandarin or in Chinese, and then 6 that would do Korean. They were trying to tap into
That's a little clever,
every
isn't
market
it?
they could. Yeah,
That's one thing I do respect about K-pop a lot too. They release their albums in multiple languages.
Right.
Like you can buy the BTS album in English, Korean, I don't know about Spanish. I almost said Spanish, but Japanese I know you can.
What part of that are you translating, other than obviously the singing aspects of it? What else do you translate from K-pop into your current styles?
I'm pretty far removed from K-pop at this point. They were an initial fire and influence for me just to start the singing, but I have a ton of different influences. If anything, they're part of the reason why I'm able to get such a deep choral vocal out and just powerful vocals. But I don't use them very often in my music because I've kind of transitioned more to R&B. And before R&B, I was in metal, and before metal, I dabbled in country, and then I'm kind of all over the place.
That's
But-
awesome though. I think I like things like that. I feel like when I write, I don't try to write. I guess I do sit down and try to write one style,
Mhm.
but I listen to everything. So little bits and pieces of everything I listen to falls into what I'm working on.
Yeah, it's really difficult to utilize the amalgamation of all your skill sets,
Mm-hmm.
at least when it comes to like vocals or let's say the different types of drumming in Colby's case for styles. Like we had one, I forget what this song was called. It was like one of my favorite. It's
a
so
good
old.
one.
It's yeah,
The good
the good one. It's so old. But it was different than all of the other music that we had made up until then. Being able to kind of force a different aspect of music or vocal style into a genre's, there's a lot of trial and error. Like I've made a lot of R&B songs with screaming in it that just don't sound good at all.
It
and no one ever hears it. I just delete. Just like, okay, well that was fun.
I mean, I think it's funny. Screaming is an interesting tool that gets used in odd places. I can
Absolutely.
picture an R&B song where screaming would fucking kill. I
Yeah.
really can. Like I remember too. Like there was a band I went to high school with. they did they made their demo, and they had a guest from another band who was the screamer in their band scream on their two acoustic songs, which was super wild to me. But when you hear that, but then you listen to it and you're like, so I think screaming in R&B would work.
Yeah,
Do you scream in those R&B songs, or
well, I have one that's kind of more raspy vocals, but that's kind
Mhm.
of been done. There is one that I have kind of in my back pocket. I haven't finished it, but there's like a really low scream and then a really high scream
nice?
for the pre-chorus, but that's the only time that I scream. But yeah, I only have one that I've actually think that I've made it work, but like I said, I haven't worked on it at all.
I mean, out of curiosity, do you find that you're attracted to trying to blend things out of the challenge, or do you truly feel like it's more of like a inner calling about things?
I wouldn't say so much that about the challenge as it is just the curiosity,
Hmm.
just to see if something will work or not. There's the band Issues, right? And Tyler Carter, he mixes R&B vocals with, you know, that genty metal, and it just works
Mhm.
like a charm. So, and then they have screaming in it since it's metal.
Yeah.
So I figured, okay, well, maybe if I throw some R&B vocals slash raps and then throw some screaming on like a really soft kind of groovy song, like what would that sound like?
But I definitely enjoy
I like
the approach of trying things like that, right?
Mhm.
You should always be open to trying anything, I believe. And I think very relative to what we've been talking about is baby metal, whereas they got the big choreographed things as the K-pop does, but obviously, real heavy stuff going on
Oh
in it.
yeah,
So.
and that's they have. Do they do their own screams?
I, I think it's like what you're talking. I've never watched it. I've just seen them and like, oh, this is fun. And then there's one that screams,
Oh,
type
okay,
thing.
okay,
So it might be that same concept. I don't know.
gotcha. I think I've only listened to a few songs and seen like one or two of their live performances, but I wasn't ever sure if they did their own screams or not. I know they do a lot of clean vocals, but there was one song where I did hear screams, and I was
I
like,
have no idea. I've never listened to Baby Metal. I know you talked to him about it
Yeah,
the other
just like
day.
seeing clip. I like going and
Yeah.
watching clips of them.
yeah, no,
I googled it. I meant to because we were in the car when I searched it up, and I was like, when I get home, I'm gonna go watch a video of this. And
It's just fun, I mean, and I don't mean this by any means in a derogatory sense, but you've got predecessors like Limp Bizkit, realistically,
Mhm.
on these verges of those types of things, right?
oh,
Or
Limp Bizkit's hot again. That's not offensive anymore.
well, I'm just saying,
Like-
some not everyone likes them, and even still, we were talking about Vanilla Ice having made a stab in that thing,
Yeah, he
that
did the
genre
he
of
did the
rap
new metal
rock.
thing. Yeah.
So it's just, it's always fun to get to experiment. Where do you feel most confident in your experiments in those types of genre meshings?
I often don't feel confident.
No?
I just do it. So I mean, usually I'll make like two or three songs before I get one that I'm like, okay, I really like this one. And then I continue down that path and fully flesh it out and actually make the song. But a lot of times, like I said, it'll be two, three. I mean, before when I first started making music, it was like 5 or 6 songs that I would have to make before made one that I was like, okay, this one isn't too bad. But eventually, you kind of get a pattern down, and you know, the more you practice, the better you get. So
What kind of advice would you give anybody that might see this about pursuing those types of ventures that can make it not necessarily easier, but help, coerce them into it?
there really isn't a high dollar like entry when you start making music. I mean, this is probably like $20 that you can spend to start making music.
Yeah.
They have a website called BeatStars where you can just get free beats, and they have metal beats on there, metal music.
Really.
They have country, they have everything that you can think of, any type of instrumental you can get on BeatStars. And a lot of them are for free. So you can just send it to your email, download it, and put it onto your DAW. And they have free DAWs too. The DAW that I have was like $16. So that's the only reason why it is like 20. If you download a free DAW, you can get an adapter to put into your cell phone and use a headset, right?
And-
With a cable.
So for those of y'all who may not know what he means by DAW stands for Digital Audio Workstation, and that's a recording software that we use to record the audio for our podcast. It's what they use to record the audio in studios. I think even on movies they use DAWs. So
Mm-hmm. So, but I mean, there's very little barrier to entry. So, if someone is genuinely interested in creating music or starting the creative process, just keep doing it. Like you're
Right.
going to suck ass at first.
Right.
You're
Yeah,
going to
that's true.
suck. It's no matter what you do when you start something new, you're always gonna suck. And there's no changing that. Like sure, sometimes there may be things that you just have a natural affinity for, but a lot of times when you start something new, you're learning new patterns. You're learning, I guess, just everything in general. But the quicker that you're able to pick up patterns,
Right.
the more efficient you're able to be with whatever you're doing. And of course, when it comes to the skill of singing or rapping or being on beat, right? That just only comes with practice.
Mm.
So the more you do it, you just have to keep doing it, even if you only do it like once a week,
Right.
right? You just can't give up. You'll always see progress.
That's the truth. So Seth, you're landed on R&B right now. That's where you've gone through the motions. You said country, metal,
Yeah.
R&B. What did we already ask this? What turned you on to R&B? What made you say, today I'm starting an R&B project? This is what I'm going to do.
The initial artists were Keshi and probably Lucky Day.
Okay.
They're like soul R&B, like Rainy and different artists like that. But whenever I heard the kind of groovy bass and then just beautiful harmonies when it came to piano and they even throw in violin sometimes and orchestral instruments, it just I gravitated toward it because I mean I was still into the metal,
Mm-hmm.
but rather than have the volume cranked all the way up, in your vehicle and going hard, like it's like night and day. You're able to relax and
Yeah.
kind of like enjoy what you're listening to and kind of like vibe. Like Mac Arias, like it's kind of soul R&B.
I
You're
get
just
that.
there for it instead of just like
Right.
a freaking truck full of energy just hitting your face all at the same time.
I get that. So when you started R&B, you brought up what was the website where you got beats from?
BeatStars.
BeatStars. You brought up BeatStars. Are you still currently using BeatStars? Or are you making your own beats?
I am currently using BeatStars. Initially, I had actually started making my own beats. I was like, okay, well, if I'm gonna make my own music, I'm gonna have to make my own beats.
Right.
And so I downloaded FL Studios, which is the DAW. Spent like $300 on it, and then I bought a laptop so that I can make music, and then I got an interface, and I got all this spiel, and I was trying to learn how to use it, and I'm so inept when it comes to electronics and computers. So I was like, "Can I curse? Can we curse?" I think I've already
Yeah,
cursed.
you've
I
already
was like, "Yeah." I
Yeah.
was like, "Fuck, this is hard." It's like this is so tedious. This is so difficult.
It is.
Eventually, it is. There's a huge learning curve when it comes to making your own music.
Because I know I use one of the DAW, because we use a bunch of different DAWs. I like to use Pro Tools when I record stuff, but I also like that's stuff that I know that's also like when I know I'm going to publish something. I'm like, we're laying this down with the stuff I like to work with. But in Pro Tools, they have a lot of electronic instruments and like beat making
Mhm.
stuff. I also used to use Reason. Have you ever messed with Reason?
No, the
Oh.
only one that I've worked with is FL.
Okay. Reason is nuts. But yeah, making beats, it's daunting. Like you hear them and you're like, oh, someone made this with a computer. That's probably easy. It's not.
It's not at all.
Yeah.
The very first beat that I made they were like natural plugins, right? Like
Yeah.
what the software had that I had purchased it with, and it sounded like a freaking Nintendo 3DS type like introduction, like Pokemon kind of like it was like
Yeah.
it was so ridiculous, like a Game Boy,
You've got
those
that
tunes.
thing over there.
What thing?
What's it called? I forgot. It's the old analog style of everything.
Yeah, there's
Oh,
exactly like that. Or there's
wait,
like
what are you talking
there's like chimes and like it's all
Well, it's
muffled.
just I mean,
It's just old,
anything that's just got presets in general, right? And then
Yeah.
you can just start clicking a button, and all of a sudden
Mhm.
you get a doop, 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 doop,
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was exactly like that. But
Are you talking about the minus the bear thingy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, it's so difficult. Man.
Omni chord.
There it is.
Minus the bear rules.
Dude, yeah. They came out with that album Omni that they
Mhm.
used the Omni chord on. And so I went and bought an Omni chord. The thing's wild. I don't know how to use it. I'm still trying to figure it out.
But it's that same premise of thought of what
Yeah.
you're talking about, where it's like, especially now that we're in a digital world going back to an analog project, and same thoughts of
Right.
like have little tweakings and stuff like that, right? Within what you're doing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the more you do it, the better you get at it. The more you learn and understand. And of course, you have YouTube, which is like endless information, and you can just
It really is.
continuously get better.
I
But
bought a violin last year, and thinking I'll just learn how. No,
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 there's no
it's
frets on the damn thing. Like you,
it's
you really got to
extremely
know where to put
difficult.
your fingers
Yeah,
on.
yeah, yeah.
And then it's ridiculous how hard it is to move this bow
Mm-hmm.
while you're moving your fingers. It's
once I realized that you could download other people's beats, and they're
Yeah.
like infinitely better than your own that you can make within like a 4-year time period. Because it
Right.
would take about 2 years just to get to the point where you're making really good beats,
right.
and then for where it's proficient enough to where you're actually posting songs and mixing and mastering and doing all of that. So there's a really big learning curve, and it takes quite a while to master those skills. And it's not just creating the music in itself, the creative part of it. There's a lot of back end to it as well, like learning how to download the software for different types of instruments or different styles of instruments if your DAW doesn't have it.
Got
Yeah.
all sorts of patches and stuff.
Exactly, yeah. And if you're not good with computers like I am, then it just takes forever. So once I learned you could download other people's beats, I was like, what the fuck? I was like, all I wanted to do was sing anyways. Why am I doing this?
There you go.
I was like, this is
There
so
you go.
stupid. It could be just saving so much time and just honing the craft that I actually wanted to hone, which was, my vocals.
Yeah, because if not, you're looking for like a producer type character who's doing that on solely for that, and then you have to mesh with them and
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean,
starting a band in that
I
sense, right?
I would say the good aspect of starting on your own and continuing it and not quitting is that you have a very unique, specific style to you.
Mm.
Whereas if you depend on anyone else's beats, then you have to work in their confines of their
Exactly, yeah.
creativity. If you can figure it out and stick with it, which it's really difficult to, then you can get something like Breakins, which he's just like so much creativity,
Oh yeah, I know him. I need to listen to him.
so much creativity,
All right.
and his vocals are fantastic too. He's a really great singer, but that's someone who stuck with it when it came to instruments, when it came to learning how to stare at a screen for hours upon hours, and it just drives you out of your fucking mind unless you're genuinely interested and passionate about it.
I mean I think that serves as like the real stake in it for me is that you have to be a madman to continue in some of these.
It's so difficult. It sucks.
And I
Yeah.
think that if you don't have that little bit of like tunnel vision craziness as an artist, you can't make it. And so I think you're nailing, you're hitting the nail on the head in a lot of ways, describing a lot of people. There's a tenacity within it that you have to have. And if you don't, you're not going to make it.
Exactly. And I didn't have it when it came to making beats. I just like, no, dude. I was like, fuck this.
But that's fine. That's something you identified and then you pivoted and figured out something that's
Mhm.
working for you. And that's great.
Yeah.
I think it's important also to always be able to find what can keep you going. Like we were talking earlier, you just got to learn and keep moving forward.
Mhm.
Before you had gotten here, we had talked about something else. In life, that's integral, right? On that note, what do you think might be something that you try to pivot into next that would change up or continue or develop your craft here?
Well, right now, when I brought up the aspect of the really cheap entry level to
Mhm.
get into making music, so I'm still recording music with an Xbox One headset. Like no joke.
That's
Like,
all right.
like
Yeah.
but my thought process on it was if I can't sound good on this, then I'm not going to sound good on better equipment. And when I do eventually switch over to FL Studios and actually start editing my vocals in that program or in that DAW, and I'm using more expensive mics, and I already have a really expensive interface, and I've kind of learned how to use it, but I'm not really proficient with it. But once I start using that, I'm gonna sound way better.
I agree, and I actually really like that you brought that up. When I went to school at South Plains, I went to South Plains for sound technology and recording technology, even though I don't do very much with it anymore. But we took a class for audio for video, and we had in the studio that we would do the recordings for video. We had you had really nice speakers, studio grade, wonderful speakers. They also brought up that people aren't watching at the time. People now spend a little bit more money to get speakers for their TVs, but at the time, people were using speakers that came on the TVs, and those things were garbage.
Mhm.
So we had this little garbage speaker right in the middle of the studio that you would switch to make sure that the bands that we were mixing, because they did a live performance of bands that went out to the local TV station to make sure it sounded good.
Excuse me. Mhm.
And I don't know if you've ever noticed, there was one time I was watching, I think it was like Jimmy Kimmel, and I was watching it on a regular TV, and I was like, this guy, the audio sounds like shit. And I was like, I guarantee they're sitting there with their beautiful speakers, and they're like, this sounds amazing.
Mm-hmm.
They're not thinking about the regular guy. But you are right. Like, you're mixing on those Xbox One headphones. They're not the most amazing headphones. You can make something sound good on them. It's going to sound good on good quality headphones.
Yeah,
That's
and
the
a
truth.
good quality mic too. So
Yeah.
the DAW that I'm using on my phone, so everything's plugged in my phone. Everything. I make all of the music on my phone. It has basic EQ, and there's only like, you can take off the low end, the high end, and then there are two like
Two
two
I know what you
nodes,
mean. Yeah.
two nodes, and you can either go up or down with those two.
Mhm.
You cannot fine tune it at all. And I could put the wave files and audio into FL Studios, but then I'm like, okay, well now I'm doing too much. You have the basic EQ, and then you have basic compression, and that's it. That's all you have for that app. So every sound that I'm able to make, that's just like, it's just raw audio essentially.
It's pretty sick, though.
So this first EP that I'm planning on fucking releasing eventually, I mean, I've probably made like 9 EPs worth of music, and I'm never satisfied with it. I put rather an EP on SoundCloud, and it was what the best that I had up until that point. But I think I have about 5 songs right now. I have the rough drafts completely finished. I just need to flesh out the songs, re-record everything, and I don't have autotune, so I have to re-record the same thing over and over. If I'm just off by like a few cents, like, you can hear it.
Yeah.
You can maybe not a few cents. I think I'm obviously
You're the one that's going to
over exaggerating. Yeah,
No.
exactly. I'm my own worst critic, and I think you
Right.
have to be that way.
Well, one thing that we all can agree on is that we are the only ones that know what we're intending to put out.
Yeah.
So what anyone hears, they don't know
that
we're trying to.
And that's the thing too. I know when I put out my EP, I know like there was one track I listened to, and I feel like my vocals sound terrible. I also don't like my voice anyways, even though I sing and whatever.
To be fair, I was like that until like 7 to 9 years of singing.
Right.
I was like, dude, I fucking suck. And everyone's like, no, you're so good. I'm like,
but I listened to my EP, and I was like, man, I'm real flat right here. And I remember someone goes, no one, like, I didn't hear a problem. You're the one hearing the problem because it's your song. You put all this work into it. I'm sure it's not perfect. I'm flat there. But I'm probably the only one that notices that I'm flat.
Yeah.
And it was your 13th try getting it, and it's still flat.
Yeah. Yeah.
No one else knows that.
All of a sudden, you're back in that room and you're pissed.
Yeah.
Yep.
I can't get this line.
Yeah. It happens.
Yeah. I mean, you have so many chances, to fix it while recording. So may as well just get it as close to perfect as you can.
Yeah.
Because when you perform it live, you're not going to do it perfect. It's not going to be anywhere
No.
close. That's why it's called a performance.
Right.
You're either going to do good one day, or you're just going to shit the bed another. I mean, professional comedians still, bomb.
Yeah, everyone's
and they talk about it all the time. So
They do. So speaking of live performances, no, I'm sorry. Let me ask this first. You said you're working on an EP. Do you have a goal for release on that?
I don't. I should probably write something down, though.
Honestly, yeah, I suggest do that. I mean, a lot of the times, if you don't get it on paper, if you don't get it, make a whiteboard, write it up where you're looking at it every day. I got to have this finished by then. We've been talking about doing that. We should do that.
Yeah, in businesses in general, that's always good. And if you treat part of what you're doing as a business, you probably have a little bit of an edge on some people, But it also is just encouraging, I think, like, talking about your negative self-talk. No, I'm not trying to.
Yeah,
but if you have also positive self-talk, even if it's just a reminder on your mirror /wall, etc., that can help you. And just from one artist to another, try not to do that to yourself.
Yeah,
man.
yeah, I know. I've realized over the past 6 months, I've realized the power in words.
Yeah.
It's
So
the truth.
I've definitely been altering my heart and conscience
Well, and then
to make sure that
people,
what comes out of my mouth isn't as negative as it used to be, because I used to be so bad at just shitting on myself.
well, people around you do that too. They actually will latch on to your negative self talk about you before they start actually circling back to that. So
Mhm.
it's really important on that end too, because then you can give yourself a negative view on it from other people.
Definitely,
And don't worry, none of this is staying. I just
definitely.
want to, no, joking aside, I just don't want, you know, me to come across as I'm trying to lecture you. It's just
No, no.
positive
You're
advice.
completely fine. I don't. I'm perfectly fine with any type of correction or advice. I mean,
Right.
I don't really see it negatively whatsoever.
Redirecting.
If you have something,
Redirecting.
Not reading.
Redirect.
if you think you have something important to say that may help, I'll never see it as, wow, well, look at your fucking life. Like,
Right.
what are
Oh
you
yeah,
like? I
far be it from me to ever try to give
Yeah,
any
I mean,
direction.
I don't. But that's what I'm saying. Like
Yeah.
that you're. I understand that when people say something, normally it's out of the goodness of their heart. That I try to give everyone the benefit of the doubt
Mm-hmm.
first off, and then if what comes out is just pure hatred, and you can tell by the tone of voice, body language, by everything. So
Yeah.
you can really tell what people think when they're saying something.
Right.
So
You're
I
looking,
don't have a problem with you.
I'm just making sure he's gonna call me special later or something.
Yeah, I'm gonna call you special.
See,
Yeah,
there it is.
don't become one of his students.
So,
He's gonna forget you. He'll forget your
Oh
name.
man,
Who's
That's
this
hilarious.
guy?
Don't become one of his
that's
students.
so good. I like that bird. So is the goal to do live music?
That is the goal. Yes.
When is that gonna happen? If you don't mind me asking, do you have a?
2024 is gonna be a hell of a year for me. Goodness gracious.
We're gonna have an EP and we're gonna have a live performance, right?
Yeah. Well, definitely. That's definitely the plan. One of the songs that I've released out of the 5 songs that I plan on putting into the EP was made last year.
All right.
So it's an older song, but it's
It happens.
still a nice one. So I decided to keep it. So there's that one that's already put out. I'm gonna put out another one here really soon.
Mm-hmm.
Just need to fix one or two things on it, and I'll have it out, and it'll be on Spotify and iTunes and everywhere else. The only place that I don't have any music or any content on is YouTube, and I'd rather put stuff on there myself rather than have DistroKid or any other
I
type
understand
of
that.
service put it out.
I did hear, and I'm not sure how it works because I try to pay attention to, as an indie musician, and we're friends with a lot of indie musicians, trying to help people out the best we can. I know at one point in time during the last year, YouTube Music actually had the highest payout back to uh, the artist for plays.
Mhm.
But I also don't know how to put my music onto YouTube Music. Also, don't know how to listen to YouTube Music.
Yeah.
Also, don't know, like, is YouTube Music separate from YouTube? Like, is that a different app? Like,
We're
is it-
just so
okay.
old, dude. It's
See,
okay.
yeah, like I don't know. So
times are moving
I
past.
feel like
without us.
even if they were paying out the highest amount at a certain time, I would say percentage of streams, like you're probably getting like under 10% of total streams from YouTube.
well, it's tough. And also, like, I don't know very many people who are listening to music on YouTube Music.
Yeah.
I mean, I tell people to please listen to your friends' music on Apple Music. I'm shitty about this. I pay for a Spotify account, so I listen to most of my music on Spotify. But I know Apple Music pays more,
Mhm.
so
I'm
Yeah.
guilty of that too. I mean,
Yeah.
before I caved in and bought a subscription service for streaming music, I would buy every single album. I've probably spent like $4,000 on music.
oh god, yeah.
So that was finally I was like, you know what? There wasn't enough memory on my phone to hold all of that music, so I was like, I need to do something about this.
Yeah.
And my family, they all had Spotify, so I was like, fuck it, I'll try it.
You know,
I got Spotify, and
It's wonderful. It's beautiful. I love the subscription service to music because I don't have to spend $4,000. I can listen to anything I want to. But Spotify, can you fucking pay the artist better, please? Like,
get it together. Huh?
it takes almost 1,000 plays to make $1.
Yeah.
Stop it.
Yeah, it's pretty
That's
ridiculous.
a lot.
I think that's most of the money comes from merch and live performances. So
Yep.
Mhm.
That's
yeah,
what Taylor's doing, right?
Yeah.
That's
doing something.
yeah.
She's doing something right.
Self-funded a tour that's launched into this ridiculous. Did you watch football? It's just a. I'm not saying, oh my god, you don't watch. I'm saying, oh my god, this scene that I saw
You're talking
was
about Jason?
no.
Oh.
It's one of those. God damn it, parking garages,
Uh.
the coil up, path or whatever, and it's a bunch of fans leaving the stadium after the last Kansas game, and they're just nothing but Taylor Swift song being sang by hundreds of people, thousands of people.
That's insane.
It's
Yeah,
just,
dude,
but
she
yeah, you
was
just see
getting
the
torn
heads,
in.
and the guy with the camera. You just hear that song.
It's
That's amazing.
It's crazy from her her first country album debut was like she just shot into the stratosphere. Like I don't even know
She
what's
really
going
did.
on.
Yeah.
It's like culty weird.
I agree.
It's like
That's
it's
what
like
I'm saying.
it's like
agree.
BTS culty weird. It's like I don't know how to explain it.
She got it like that though.
Hey,
What are you gonna say?
So how did you two get linked up? Y'all were in
We actually met on
Flip Cup, right?
Grinder.
On Grinder?
Yeah,
Sick.
Yeah.
Who swiped left first or right first?
I think
Had
it
a
was-
rough cabinet, needed smoothing. So
I'm pretty good with that. With that sanding motion, Yeah.
I don't get it.
So y'all met on Bandmic.
He met one of my other buddies, one of the
Ray.
guitarists. Yeah.
Okay.
So we were looking for a new drummer at the time. We had just recently kicked ours out. He was just really unreliable, and so
and I lied and
This
said
was Flip
I
Cup?
could do it. So
this is Flip Cup. Yes.
Okay. You lied.
yeah, I lied and said, yeah, I can do that.
I
Had
mean,
to learn.
he had some sort of proficiency, but like whenever we got there, I was like, I do not want to start over with a brand new drummer. And I was like, forget this. I was like, I'm just gonna quit.
And what was your
So
role in Flip Cup?
I was a bassist.
You're the bassist.
Yeah, I never wanted to play. I always wanted to be a singer. And then Ray invited me to his punk band, and he's like, "Dude, we need a bassist." And I was like, I want to be in a band still. I want to be with my friends. I was like, "Fuck it, I'll just play bass." He's like, "Dude, it's super easy. Just play whatever the guitar plays." So I was doing that for quite a while, and then I learned that like, oh, you don't have to play what the guitar plays.
You can do a lot. Honestly,
you can do a lot with bass.
bass is a lot of fun.
It really is.
I was an ignorant ass teenager about bass. People would be like, "You should play bass, Jack," and I was like, "No, I'm a fucking guitarist. Bass is for the guy that doesn't know how to use six strings."
Bass is for
Like,
pussies.
And then I started playing bass like in the church band when I was like 20. I was like, "Whatever, we need a bassist. I'll do this." And I started doing all these fills and this and that. And I was like,
it's a lot of
"Ooh, this
fun.
is-"
It's a lot of fun. It's taught me a lot about rhythm. I mean, I can't play drums for shit.
I'm a little surprised though that that's your take on it, considering you did go to R&B and that's such a heavy bass line
yeah,
driven,
exactly. That's
genre.
True, yeah.
That you're like, nah, I didn't even want to play bass.
Yeah, I didn't. I mean, this was. I don't think I was in R&B quite yet.
Sure, but
I'd-
still,
Yeah, I was more of like metal at that point.
Oh, especially to be honest, metal guitarists or metal bassists.
They only play the low end of.
I'm
what
not
the guitars
saying,
play.
yeah, I'm not saying
they don't venture
that they're
off.
not talented, but that is the role in a bass band or of the bass in a metal band. Is
For
to
sure.
do that.
The only bands that I knew of that had great bassists were like Issues.
Mhm.
Issues had a
Hell, one of my favorite
Issues bassist is so talented.
one of
So
my
good.
favorite metal bands didn't even tour with a bassist.
Mm.
But live, it was
A lot of them don't.
yeah, it was drummer, two guitarists, two singers, and I was like, there's okay, like
Yeah.
Yeah, it's I don't know.
Like A
It's-
Day to Remember, they don't have a bass player.
I'll believe that.
Just don't.
Yeah,
It's just not highly valued in a lot of people's opinions.
yeah.
It's kind of difficult to
well, I guess
understand the value of a bass unless you've actually tried it and played it or heard a good one
Yeah.
that'll add to the
Like a Victor
add, that'll add
maker.
rhythmically and
Yeah.
sonically
I
to
think
the music.
the hearing somebody do it right is the big
I
difference
think that
maker.
Big
that's the
time.
thing, yeah, because I remember thinking, oh, bass is easy. You just hit the low note of what the
Mhm.
guitar is playing, and that's all you do. Then you hear a Victor Wooten, and you're like, oh, there's way more to this instrument. Now I believe that bass is actually harder than guitar. I know some people would tell me I'm wrong, but I mean,
Mm.
so y'all used band mix. Y'all found Colby,
Mhm.
and Colby lied about being a drummer, or not lied about your capabilities of drumming.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah.
There it is.
So how long did it take y'all to find the rhythm?
Well, I had left, and then Colby got good.
Got good? Because you were like, I'm out. I don't want to.
And so Colby got good. They got another bassist, and they put together an album EP. What was it?
Little EP, yeah.
Like a 6-song EP, 7-song EP. no, 6 song EP, and that happened, and then they toured and they played a shit ton of shows and they did everything with that, and then eventually their bassist had to leave and they were already making new music, so I hopped back in and went from there with new music. And by that point I was already proficient in my own music. I had also, since I was playing bass and listening to a lot of R&B, I was paying a lot more attention to bass than any other instrument. Whereas before I would like only listen to guitar and vocals, like that's it. But now I'm listening to drums and bass and trying to understand the relationship that they have within a song.
Oh yeah.
So I think that definitely made me better. And then they kind of gave me the confidence and to be comfortable in playing whatever I wanted. And if it didn't sound right, then I knew that they would tell me that it didn't sound right, after like 2 months, or like or like right before a show.
Right
Yeah,
before
yeah,
show,
yeah.
they're like, "Hey man,
You know that thing you've been doing this whole time?
Well, we just heard
Can you
it.
do it different?
We
dude,
just
I hated that." Like, I'm not gonna put anyone on blast, but that definitely happened to me in some of the bands I was in. Someone's like,
Well,
"Hey,
everyone's
yeah,
focused on what they're trying to play. They're trying to get maximum efficiency out of what they're playing, and trying to figure out how to craft it a little bit differently and trying to make
yeah,
it better. So until you've gotten to a point where you're happy, then you're able to listen to what everyone else is
right,
doing. So
so you
it's a
guys
little
would just
understandable,
write
but
your parts individually and just play with each other for that moment.
well, I mean, you would still be able to listen to everyone and kind of like
Mm,
tell the
Yeah.
vibe, but
Yeah, the songwriting process was always very much in the moment. Like
I see.
one person would have a guitar
yeah."
intro and then just a build from there.
Just build from there.
just jamming.
The only
Case
one
the
that would write songs at home would be Darren. Like he would write a song at home and show up to practice. Like here's a new song.
And it's
It's like
completely
okay,
finished.
here we go.
Vocals too, like if you're not playing any instruments. So
Hmm.
a lot of times when I first started making songs, I would just say whatever like came to my heart. It kept, more or less freestyling. You just sing whatever melodies you think sound good, or just have fun. And you go back and you listen to it and you put the same part on loop, and you're like, okay, well, what words fit into this kind of like however many, what do they call it?
You're
Like
talking about your
syllables or
melody and
Yeah,
your
syllables. There you
okay.
go.
Yeah,
Syllables. You try to fit whatever words will fit into these syllables,
yeah,
and with the melody, and what try to craft a narrative essentially. Like some words or some phrases, you mean, oh, I kind of like that. I'll keep that. And then something else, you'll be like, what the fuck did I even say there? You're like, okay,
mhm,
well, I'll just change it, and you kind of add on to that, and that's kind of like a more chaotic way of making the music. And then you can also just write the lyrics, right, or type them in and then listen to the beat and then make the melody.
yeah,
And a lot of times that's much more concise and it's a lot quicker. And honestly, a lot of times people like those songs that I make a lot more often. And then there's a combination of both where you take it section by section and you do it phrase by phrase, and
mhm,
you write something and you're like, okay, well, what's the best melody for this sound? And then you just keep trying it like that. So there's a plethora of different ways to actually make music when it comes
right.
to vocals as well. But put drums and then guitar, your own guitar parts on top of that. Like
Right.
it's an absolute process.
There you go. Is bass the only instrument you play? Do you play guitar? Because you brought up guitar a few times, so I was
I
curious.
took a few lessons when it came to piano and keyboard. So
Okay.
I mean, it's not difficult. If I were to join a band, I would be proficient enough to make my own parts and
Okay.
be able to vibe with it. But when it comes to absolute proficiency and off the cuff playing, I wouldn't be able to do that. Like I would actually have to listen to music and find out what notes sound good with that, and pick the chords that I like best, and kind of shape it like that. But bass is the only thing that I'm more comfortable with besides vocals. Like singing, I can jump into anything and absolutely freestyle anything,
I get that.
especially when it comes to melody. Like I'm very, very proficient when it comes to vocals. Thankfully, God bless.
So,
Imagine if I was still shit after 12 years. Gosh.
Do you have links or anything that you might throw at our listeners that we can link to them and they get?
yeah. So we can put
Um,
links in the description and whatnot.
I do have the Spotify for that one song.
Mhm.
Um, the artist name is Noax, and it sounds pretty pretentious, but it's all capitals. It's in the A with the little O on top of it, and then X.
Okay.
But it's just a really simple 3-letter name, just Noax.
Okay.
Okay.
No ox.
How
And
can they type that on a regular keyboard?
Okay, so on a computer keyboard, I have no fucking clue. You're kind of screwed there.
Oh, the circle on top. I thought you
Yes.
meant the at.
No.
No,
It's not the
okay.
at.
I got
I'm
you.
not
So
that old.
it's not
I got you.
It's not anarchy.
It's the Illuminati symbol.
There it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's
I know now. I know. what you mean.
NAX.
Okay.
But that's about it. I
Well,
don't,
that's
I don't
just
really
me
have
now.
anything on my socials. Probably like one post.
What about your
but,
SoundCloud? You mentioned you had a SoundCloud. already.
Yes,
Get that
it's
SoundCloud.
that's Cherry Cruise.
Sure. Like Cherry Cruise.
Like Terry Crews, but
Okay,
Cherry
Cherry
Cruise. Yes.
Nice.
Yeah.
CREW or UI.
Like cruising on a boat or a car,
Yeah, like cruising. CRUI.
Alright.
or like a group of people, like a bunch of cherries.
No, definitely. there isn't a W in there.
Right. So thank you,
That is
Seth.
interesting.
Thank you, Seth, for coming. Make sure y'all check him out on Spotify, Noax, SoundCloud, Cherry Cruise.
We appreciate you guys joining us today. Make sure that you check out our streams on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. And of course, Friday coming up, we've got another unscripted event coming your way.
Absolutely. Thank y'all for coming. Seth, thank you for showing up. Colby, thank you for
course.
coming as well, too.
Thank you for the
Sure.
invitation.
Thank
Absolutely.
you.
Love
Thank you
y'all.
for having me.
Love y'all.